Did you start recording it?
Okay, now I started recording.
There you go. So
So
it's a very merry morning. Good morning from me. I don't know what time it is at your place, but yeah,
well, my place is 5 p.m.
5 p.m. So it's 11 a.m. in my place. It's very sunny and very warm actually for some reason, right? So anyway, right? We were supposed to talk about what three anime no, not three anime series, three just um and I don't know what would you call it, movies? They're not movies. Just general media, entertainment media today. Unfortunately, we
Yep,
didn't watch the last one, which was like a 13 episode series, but never mind. So I hope you watched Paprika and
I
the
did,
the following sequence, Inception.
as well as Inception.
There you go. I did as well. Specifically in that order, and I don't know. I got some of my impressions. I kind of wrote a few things down. But let's start. What did you think? What did you think about Paprika?
Well, I believe Paprika. I thought it was very good. Like,
Okay.
first time I saw it, I thought it was insanely good.
Oh
I
really?
mean, um, when was it published again?
I think it was like
Like,
2006.
yeah,
Some
like
like early
2006 or something.
early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, which I believe. I mean, the quality is pretty good of the
Yeah.
anime itself. Very
Oh
good
for sure.
artwork, and yes, that's what I would say for the most part
No,
about
100%.
the visuals.
100%. Like I agree with you. Like the art and stuff like that is like a, I don't know. It's very good and kind of ahead of its time actually. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of anime like from its
Yeah,
time.
it's way ahead of its time.
Exactly.
Way ahead of its time.
But like mostly, right? Like I forgot the name of the director, but like I kind of like researched him a little bit. But the director is like pretty known to like be be very story focused or like concept focused, like storyteller. You know what I mean? And like
Yes.
while watching like Paprika, like you really see that, like that concept and like idea and everything is
Yeah,
like literally,
there's like a real idea behind it. You can
yeah.
see it. It's not just the superficial side of the anime.
Or
It's
generally like
also like there's a
storytelling.
deep meaning behind it. Exactly, generally in storytelling, and I would probably say like it compared to Inception. I would even say Paprika. I liked it more,
Oh,
to be
seriously?
honest.
Okay.
I liked Paprika more.
Oh, no
I mean,
way.
it might be because I have like
An anime
I don't
bias?
know
You
an
anime bias?
affection towards anime, towards anime series and animated movies. But I gotta be honest. Well, you get I gotta give props obviously to Leonardo DiCaprio, who's like
As
I mean one of
amazing
my favorite
actor.
actors, and
Especially
I can't
Inception.
say it's
But
and like it's
no, but like, no, like, I mean, like already comparing them, right? Like we can definitely, like both of us, you and I can agree that Paprika was like a really good movie, and
yes,
um the reason
definitely.
the reason you and I kind of like chose to watch and or compare it to Inception afterwards was because it was said like that Inception was basically inspired by the anime like Paprika, right? And
Exactly.
I did feel that like at the beginning I was like, like everybody can talk about like, inspiration, whatever, just like as a very loose term or whatever. But like once you actually like watch both, you see like, oh, okay, so like it's basically that, just with real people in some ways. You know what I mean? What did you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I guess it's both of them are about more or less the same topic, which is this
Yeah,
dream walking thing, entering somebody else's dream
yeah,
and being able to manipulate things
yeah.
inside the dream. And at first, it was only about mostly stealing secrets. So
So
and later on, it got to the inception part,
yeah,
at least in the movie. We're talking about obviously Inception. I'm talking about Inception right now. While in
yeah,
Paprika, It's mostly that you have a lot. All of them have more or less the same influence. Like in a dream, everybody is able to manipulate, and it's more.
Was it?
Yeah. How should I explain this?
So the mechanics, right? We're talking about like the mechanics of like how.
The mechanics. We're talking about the mechanics.
Exactly. So as far as I remember, like you can definitely correct me if I misunderstood it. The difference between like the dream mechanics, there were a few I assume, right? In Paprika and Inception was that in Paprika
Yep.
it was kind of impossible that dreams fused in some ways. Like you could go into somebody's dream, but you would not have any control, right? Or was this something like that? Like wasn't it like wasn't like the threat of the whole story basically in Paprika that like a lot of dreams were like coming together and kind of
Exactly.
bridging like the reality.
It's like exactly in the end, the catastrophe
Yeah,
is that
catastrophe.
both
Yeah,
both worlds somehow collide.
yeah. And in
And
Inception, it was more of like,
which I believe like
yeah,
well in Inception it was more like not that obvious. You know, it was not like, well, both worlds collide, chaos happens, and then you start something new. No, that was not. Inception was different. It was mostly about him. Like I think his name was Cobb, right?
cop, yeah,
And him, mostly his life story, his children,
exactly.
and obviously his wife.
His wife,
Which
his life mission in some ways, right?
his life mission, and it's actually about him putting together his life.
Exactly.
Putting,
So like
putting back together his life.
Exactly. Paprika was like seriously like more about like the concept and like what it means to like what it means for like something to be real or like true like motivations of people, and Inception was way more
Especially
of like
different people. The focus was not just on one individual.
exactly like
No, it was more like you had the doctor,
yeah,
you know, the scientist.
the
You have
fat guy,
Paprika, who has two personalities. One, she's like Paprika in the dream, but
and in
obviously
real
then
life she
she's
was like this serious kind of, what was she wasn't a doctor but she was like,
she was she was a scientist as well.
oh yeah, she was a
Like she
scientist,
was
yeah.
one of those people who actually built up the project.
Was it?
And
I'm
she was
still
very
confused
serious.
about her. I'm still confused about like, look, all I knew was like that Paprika was like this dream version of this real person, right? Like I forgot her name. But why was she, because like at the beginning I kind of thought Paprika was like a real person who kind of stole that technology, but at the end it kind of like came out that that this scientist kind of just like it with the support of like this one older doctor, whatever, just took
Yeah,
one for herself and moved on, right? Which was really cool and everything, but the movie, I mean, obviously,
exactly.
besides being called Paprika, like centered itself like around this whole relationship between Paprika and her real persona. Would you say that? And I mean,
Yes,
we'll eventually come to like my
I agree.
question of like how it ended, because in some ways I still don't understand it, like how the story ended. I hope you do. You might give me some
Well,
answers.
the ending of Paprika. Well, the beginning of the end is when both worlds collide.
Yeah, definitely. We're like
I mean, we agree on that one. We agree
exactly.
on
We're
that
like
one.
the paralyzed what was he, like board member, like investor? I don't know what he was. Where it was coming to like conclusion that basically he was behind like this surge of like, I don't know, what would you like, I really can't still like explain it all, but it was pretty interesting. But like yeah, at the it was almost at the end, yeah.
Well, she meets her other self,
Yeah,
and
because
she
dreams
talks
became
with her.
reality, right? Because dreams were like
Exactly,
starting to become reality, yeah.
exactly. She started talking with her other self,
Yeah.
And I guess that's when she started actually changing, her life
Yeah.
and understanding different things. Um, Especially,
Her
she says
relationship.
something. You remember the scene where they meet and she's like, "You gotta save." Paprika's like, "You gotta save the world," and her other self, like her, let's say, reality self,
Yeah.
just actually wants to run behind to save her friend,
The
and
the creator of
and the
the tech,
paprika
yeah.
and the paprika one, which is I believe it's her, let's say, younger self,
Mm-hmm.
her less serious self, how she maybe wanted to live her life,
Yeah. Like her
her dream,
true desires and everything.
her true desires,
Yeah.
maybe not living in this strict world. I mean, she's always serious.
Yeah.
Her reality self was always serious and doing her job and probably not getting, let's say,
Any
the time off she
satisfaction out of
needs.
life.
Exactly. And the paprika self, which she is in her dream,
Yeah.
is more like a fun girl,
Yeah.
even a bit lusty towards some people, like some
I,
characters.
that is a good point.
Like,
I'm not sure about that though. Like I kind of thought it at the beginning, but she was kind of always teasing everybody. I don't know.
yeah, I agree. You know, I believe that's her hidden self. She didn't want to show to the world.
Yeah.
And in the end, she kind of, when everything merges, she gets serious about even her feelings about her coworker.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what saved everything,
I
right?
think it was the fat guy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We're
it was
talking
the
about the
fat guy.
fat guy.
It was the fat, like there was
It was
like
the
this
fat guy.
comparison. Like I remember the scene because it was really good. It was like just generally like how we met the person to begin with. It was like in this elevator, right? You remember where she was like
Exactly.
trying to walk out, and the guy was like, I forgot his name, man. The fat scientist, like the really genius scientist. Like he was stuck there, and she pulled him in, and that's how they kind of finished the whole story. Where like she was pulling him in, but at the end she was kind of hugging him and therefore expressing her true emotions about him, whatever. And
Yeah, I
which
agree with
which
that
was
one.
one of the best ones. But it's like I really still don't like. No, okay, like one of the best scenes that I remember from like the end, like the third act, whatever fight scene or which when you would call it, was like when it was building up, and they were kind of looking at this whole like black void. I don't know if you remember that, where it was just like a
Yeah,
hole going there,
there was just
and
like a hole going down.
exactly.
Exactly.
And then for some reason they were standing there and they were watching across and they saw like buildings or something and they were talking about like okay there's like this other reality or whatever. And I thought about like that being our reality and it kind of like it kind of gave you like oh man like something like that. I don't know. I felt something there. But
Yeah, you remember the scene where they enter this place?
which one?
No, wait, that was in Inception. I mean, the idea is more or less is the same.
it,
So
yeah.
right now I'm talking about the part where in Inception they go into this room and it's like they were all test subjects one day, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
for some reason they just can't dream anymore like normally.
Yeah.
So they enter this. So they
Yeah.
all enter.
Oh, was it like
Let's say
in
voluntarily
Africa?
their dreams. Yeah, I think it was. It in Africa.
Yeah, where they were going to like this one chemist and he kind of took him to like this bunker where like a lot of people were like lying in and there was like this old man. I loved it. He even like slapped someone. I kind of laughed there. But yeah, he was talking about like yeah,
Exactly.
why do these people come here and some like that. And the old man basically said yeah, well they don't come here to sleep. They come here to wake up. Like their dream is their reality now or something like that. Like who are you to judge? That was pretty cool.
Exactly. No, that was it. That was very deep idea.
Yeah.
I mean, even in our normal lives, I mean, we dream like I think 1/3 of our day, like normal people,
Wow.
and technically it could be considered an alternative reality,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
No, I completely understand what you mean. But like, let's talk about like let's talk. I mean, like the more I talk about it for some reason, like like you're convincing me of the fact that
And
in
the more
some way,
questions emerge, I know.
yeah, yeah. That not only that, but like to some extent, I'm leaning more and more towards that Paprika might have been actually a better movie at the end, because
I agree.
I generally think that Paprika was the idea and the concept of like just tackling the whole concept, and Inception was basically okay. Let's take this concept and let's just add these like main characters to it and let them play
Main
with it.
characters, and I believe they also added the fact that there was a dream in a dream, and
Like the
then a
layers,
dream
yeah,
in that dream again,
yeah.
and that obviously in the dreams, time is pretty much
It's slower than
faster. Time goes by faster.
oh faster.
Like
My bad. You're right. Yeah,
in the dream, I'm talking about in the dream,
yeah, yeah.
because your brain works
Faster.
more quickly for some reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know that feeling as well. Usually, like once, not only once, I mean, but once I remember I had like a dream,
Hmm.
even though I only slept like for 10 minutes or something, like deep sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and it seemed like hours for me, like in the dream.
Oh, for real.
Like
Yeah.
I was somewhere for hours.
I no.
Um,
I had some similar too. I was like, what was I like? I was sleeping like I was literally sleeping like face down to my pillow, right? And in my dream, I was like, I genuinely remember this. I swear to God. I was in this military camp, and I don't know. We had a whole training session and stuff like that. It took a long time, and at the end, it was like people were like throwing smoke grenades. I couldn't breathe, and I woke up just face down on my pillow for some reason. So like something that just took like a few seconds, because if I stayed like face down to my pillow, if I wouldn't breathe, that would just, I don't know, that would kill me like in a minute or whatever, right? And in between this 1 minute, I dreamed the whole military camp scene. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast your
oh,
brain thinks. It's crazy how your it's crazy how
you
your
know,
brain
think
thinks.
about it. You know, your brain actually creates something which isn't there. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, and it even processes it even quicker,
yeah, and
which, you know, like
and
it says
both
a lot about.
yeah, but like both movies kind of like have shown the dangers of it in some ways, right? Like what was but I feel like both movies kind of showed two different dangers out of it. Does that make sense? Like I think right? Like I think Paprika showed the danger of kind of being okay, no, I think
Being
both
lost, you know,
being
being
lost.
lost
Yeah.
between both worlds.
Exactly. I
I
think
mean,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
well, Inception's also about that, for especially for Cobb. I
especially
mean, he
for
gets
Cop.
lost in his dream world with his wife and
Yeah.
his, let's say, his past self.
Yeah.
You know, because he does not want to confront the future and a life with his kids because he
Yeah, he
feels
doesn't know how to
obviously
move on.
guilty.
Yeah.
He exactly, he doesn't know how to move on. Well, in Paprika, it's not just about that. You know, it has like a lot more concepts. You remember the investigator
In
in
Paprika?
Paprika, the investigator in Paprika, like the
Oh
guy
yeah,
that
oh yeah, the main like
investigated on that murder,
the cop like
the
yeah,
cop.
he was kind of like Cobb, right? From Inception. A little bit, right?
Yeah, well, more or less, yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Um,
because both of
what
them
was
had like
shown,
something in the past that they couldn't like that they didn't move on. They even bro, they even had the same scenes. I remember like, do you remember like this in Inception? They had like this elevator scene, right? Where he was like
yeah,
moving like from memories. That was literally shown in Paprika from like the cop, right? That was literally a stolen scene. And yeah, you're right. They're really similar. I didn't even realize that.
they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what I wanted to say,
Yeah.
you remember that scene where he shoots that guy and he's like always,
Falling.
and for some reason he always thinks about him and dreams
Yeah.
always shooting this guy.
Yeah.
And then in the end he realizes he actually shot himself.
Yeah. That was deep. That was really deep. That was like he kind of killed like a part of himself or whatever, right? That was really
Exactly, he
deep.
killed a part of himself, like his, I think it was his past self, you know,
It's
the young him.
they
It was actually the young
exactly
him he killed.
exactly. That's why the cop really resonated with me for some reason. It was like his story was like just of growing up in a lot of ways, and like his whole story of like wasn't it like his old friend or something they wanted to like make movies, and
Yeah,
they were doing
they
movies
wanted
or
to be
whatever.
producers.
Exactly. And they were following like this like dream together or whatever. And right before like it really became serious and they had like great success or whatever, he just kind of bailed out on him, I think, or what happened. I don't remember. I think the cop just like kind of he just left him hanging for some reason, and they
Wait,
just
no, didn't he kill him?
he killed his friend. I thought I thought he just
Didn't he
like
kill him?
I did he? Wait.
He
No,
did kill
no,
him.
no, 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 no. I think no, no. I think the friend killed himself. The thing is, like, I think the regret is basically what he killed himself. I think the regret was like the metaphor for like him killing himself. So, like,
You
I
know,
could.
I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about
Are you
this.
are you serious? Wait, I could be wrong too. Like, I'm fully stating it, but like from what I remember from the movie, it was like they were making movies. They had this big dream, and he basically bailed out on his friend, and his friend went on to college, become a producer or whatever. And I think for some reason he still messed up and he killed himself. And in his mind, after hearing that like that news or whatever, like he resented his past. Like, okay, why didn't I go back? Like I should have.
Yeah, he definitely resented his past.
Exactly, and that's why he hated movies. That's why I remember. Remember,
I
like
mean,
when Paprika was like
that's the
taking.
basic idea. Him being resentful about himself in the past and doing
Exactly,
and not leaving and not going on. You know, he was like
and
still
moving on.
stuck in that
He
and
was
still
stuck
always
in that.
processing it and giving and still giving himself let's say uh, you know, he's giving himself his fault for it. That's the point.
Exactly,
He's
exactly.
blaming himself.
He's blaming
That's what I
himself.
wanted to say.
But
And he should move. When he kills his younger self, like that's the metaphor for maybe moving on and leaving his past, let's say, worries and behind and moving on,
yeah,
which I
especially
thought was a very deep idea.
exactly. No, I think to some extent you could say Paprika. I mean, Paprika was basically moving the whole story and the whole thing and everything. But you could argue maybe that the cop was like at the core of the whole story in some ways. No, I mean no, a lot of characters actually played a huge role in it. Like you can't concentrate it on one character. That's what made the
No,
whole
no,
movie pretty good.
that's what made the whole exactly. That's what made the whole movie pretty good. I mean, like even the fat, well, let's say the obese guy.
The abuse
Um,
guy.
you know, the obese scientist.
Yeah.
You know, it was always told, like in the movie, that he had like, um, let's say the attitude
Or immaturity, right?
of an infant,
Yeah.
of an infant. Yeah,
He
that
was immature.
it was immature.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a great scientist and everything, but he was immature for some
Yeah.
reason, and that is something he confronts later when everything collides.
True, but
Which is
I never saw any growth in him for some reason. What would you say to that? Like, mm, what happened with him, right, was at the beginning they thought he had like a friend, right? Like he was working with like his scientist, like the first guy they thought stole the tech and
exactly.
everything, moved on. And he was like, yeah, okay, he's just jealous of me, whatever, whatever. And he just continued on working and he stopped caring. And at the end of the day, he just went into his dream. And I think, okay, no, wait, I correct myself. He did kind of like improve himself by like he went into his friend's dream, try to like fix it and everything, but he still failed, right? Am I remembering that correct? He still kind of failed and he got stuck in the whole movement, right?
Yeah, well, I still believe that in the end he somehow redeemed himself and he
He
somehow
did.
still grew. I mean,
Yeah.
even Paprika herself, she confronts herself with her other self, and she decides. I guess it was about confessing her feelings to him, especially in the
Yeah.
end. You know,
Yeah.
when Paprika's like, "Go ahead,
Yeah.
confess your feelings." You
Exactly.
know,
And then
because
she does.
the older herself, let's say the older herself would have probably just gone on and probably let's say saved the world.
Hmm.
But what she did was she went after him, you know, and that was pretty clear in that scene.
So who can we say was actually like the bad guy in that movie?
The bad guy was her. I think it was her boss, like the boss of the whole company.
Right. So like,
You know that guy on the chair?
yeah, yeah, like the bald guy, right? Like with the suit and everything.
Exactly, the bald guy.
Yeah. What were truly his motivations to do whatever he did? And
I believe he wanted to drag people out of their dreams. You know. No, wait, not that way, not that way. He wanted to merge dream and
in
reality. You
reality,
know, so that people get confused and he's able to control them. That's what I believe. That's
true.
my theory.
I heard. I
And
mean, like I saw a few like analysis of like the whole movie, and a lot of people were saying like more than once actually. I heard people were saying, okay, he was kind of motivated by the fact that he couldn't walk, and he wanted basically a reality where he kind of like fixed his legs or whatever, right? I don't know if you remember the scene at the end where like he becomes like this huge, ginormous giant with like with legs or
yeah,
whatever, and that was basically like his end joy or whatever. And
let's say he has a Napoleon complex,
yeah, he has a Napoleon complex, but
but not like because he's small, but just because he can't walk. But well, he's still a powerful. Let's remember that he's still a powerful man, though. Like even in reality, he's a powerful man.
he is a
Um,
powerful man. But it's like,
I mean,
yeah, my bad. Continue.
he's probably it's his greed for power, his let's say the
Desire
pursuing
for like
of
control.
being of being like an immortal being, you know, like a perfect being.
Yeah,
You could like, you know, the scene that touched me the most actually,
yeah,
um, that was when they entered this garden. You know, when Paprika enters this garden and starts fighting with and for the first time she confronts him.
but the scene where she thought she was in reality, like she thought she woke up.
Probably,
Yeah,
probably
where
yes,
he just kind
exactly
of
that
like
scene.
grew like roots as his legs or whatever.
Yeah, exactly that
Yeah.
scene. You know, I believe that was the personification of the Garden of Eden. You know,
Oh,
like
okay, that's
that. It's
interesting.
like, you know, God. You know, God is said to walk through the Garden of Eden. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and in that moment, he was like the God.
In
You know,
his Eden.
he was like in his Eden. You know,
Okay.
which were the dreams.
Yeah,
You know, the dreams of other people.
that's a very
And
interesting analysis.
yeah, I mean, that idea just came to me like when I saw it. You know, it reminded me of Supernatural. Have you seen Supernatural?
I've seen a few. I've seen a few seasons,
Yeah,
like the
like
early seasons.
there's also a scene where they enter paradise and there's this garden of Eden.
Yeah,
Well, God's not there in that moment, but you know, like the center of paradise is the Garden of Eden.
yeah,
You know, that concept, and I believe that concept was also let's say used in Paprika,
yeah.
which was pretty interesting. Like
No, that's very
I
interesting.
thought it was interesting.
Now that's a very interesting thing. Like to some extent, you could actually say like if you can control your dreams, right? That is your Eden in a lot of ways, right? Because
Definitely,
that's basically your kingdom. Like you can do whatever you want. And
exactly.
Inception kind of like stepped their toes in that direction as well. Although
They did.
I would have liked it if they like portrayed the whole concept a bit more, right? But like what it made Inception good was like the whole story of like, okay, uh, what was it? No, it was Dawn. Dawn.
And
I think
let's not forget the action scenes.
the action scenes were pretty good actually. Like I didn't.
They were good.
They were pretty good, but Inception was more of like a story of like, okay, Dawn. Was it Dawn or Khan? Either one.
Wasn't it Cobb?
Cobb. Forget that.
It was
Cobb, right?
Cobb.
It was more of like Cobb, like having this whole backstory of like with his wife, them trying to like experiment with like the whole dream and everything, and they eventually go too deep, and she kind of loses it and she kills herself, right? Like that's what I got. She
Yeah,
just
they
killed.
go into deep.
Yeah.
He somehow brings her back to reality because he kind of manipulates her.
Uh huh.
You know, he incepts her, let's say,
Yeah.
and makes her realize that she's in a dream.
Yeah. And then she keeps thinking she's in a dream. Didn't they call it
She
a
keeps
limbo?
thinking she's in a dream,
Yeah,
and then she kills herself. But that was when he brought her back to reality.
yeah. So she basically kind of killed herself without knowing, and it was his fault. And he gets charged basically like with murder and everything. And
Yeah,
that's why like he's got this whole pressure of like finding his kids again. He's got to work, whatever, whatever, right? So there's this whole backstory that is in some ways independent of the whole concept of dream or whatever, right? Which is a pretty interesting twist, right? But Paprika, man, Paprika just amazing fucking shit.
Paprika is amazing. Got to give it to them. Like
So
I have to
so
say, but Inception also like obviously the last scene touched me as well,
mhm. where where
where he's
where
like
you knew he was in a
he,
dream and he still ignored it and he still
Mm.
hugged his
He
kids.
didn't know he was in a dream. He didn't know he was in a
But
dream.
no, he
He
did
just
roll
didn't
his.
care.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
didn't care.
Oh no, I
That was the
okay,
point. He
okay,
rolled
that's
it,
interesting.
but he just didn't care. He didn't care about it. So he just went on.
I hate these kind of endings, man, where it's like, oh, okay, he's still
I
in the
think I
dream.
think they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful.
Okay, I mean it's beautiful and everything, right? But it's like they're not giving you like a definitive ending, like okay, what happened in reality type stuff, you know? I would
Yeah,
love to see that. I don't know.
I agree, but it has like more like a
I know,
transcendent meaning.
I know. It's
And
always
that's all purpose. That's all purpose of both movies. I think
exactly.
it's looking behind what actually happens on the surface, and that's
Yeah,
what the storyteller actually wanted to write.
yeah. So,
And what he wrote, he took concepts of like real life concepts and he put it in an abstract way,
exactly.
like in a metaphorical world,
What do you
which in
hold as
this
the
case is
fact?
futuristic.
Exactly, it's kind of futuristic. I mean, based on like if you talk about kind of realistic, obviously Inception is way more realistic than Paprika, right? Because Paprika was seriously like on paper about like everybody's dream coming to reality, like right? Wasn't the whole story thing of like literally everybody in the world just kind of
Yeah,
dreaming at
that
the same
was
time?
Paprika. I believe Paprika was a little more let's say sci-fi.
Conceptual?
Like it was even more conceptual. It
Yeah,
was it was even more let's say um, you know it was further away from the real world. That's
yeah.
my point.
No, I
You know?
completely agree. But it's in some ways like that makes it like go deeper in these like ideas and everything.
Yeah,
But
you obviously have to dig a bit deeper, but probably for people who spot these things, I believe it's even easier to spot, because you say this doesn't make sense, so you
yeah,
start looking for the sense. Well, in Inception, you don't necessarily have to.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't really
Somebody could
require you to.
somebody could be like, okay, it's just about a sci-fi world, and that's it.
Yeah,
Like it's something futuristic. It's bullshit.
yeah. Paprika
It's an
involved me in the
interesting
debate.
concept. Maybe one day we'll be able to do things like walking in dreams, but and manipulating dreams.
Yeah, that's kind
But
of
that was actually not the purpose. I believe that was not the purpose of at
exactly.
least what the author
No,
wanted
no.
to
You can
transmit.
exactly. You're right. You can see that in for instance like something I was like while watching Inception, I was asking like, okay, how did humanity develop this technology, right? That's not something like Inception kind of like it really goes into very deep. Although like in Paprika, like you're told, okay, this genius came up with this idea. They're looking for funding. They're looking to support. Oh, okay, this technology is actually pretty dangerous. Terrorists can use this and stuff like that. It was like being discussed in Paprika, while in Inception, it's just like okay, people were like experimenting on this, and the technology is for some reason still there, right? I'm not saying it's necessary to explain it, but you see like the motivation between like the two directors and the two stories that they were actually kind of telling. That Paprika was like
Yeah,
seriously like I putting I don't know. It's the power of anime, man. I don't know how they do it. It's the power of anime.
yeah, they're good.
It's the power.
They're
What do you hold about the fact that um or generally, what do you think are the lessons of of both movies in a lot of ways? Like, or just
Um,
simply?
you
What
gotta
did you,
accept reality.
okay,
Accepting reality and
from both
confronting
movies
your
equally?
fears equally.
Hmm.
Confronting your fears, confronting you with what you are and what you want to be, and
That's very interesting.
accepting your past mistakes, which is important. And that one like is I believe that's probably the best displayed one. Like that idea was best displayed in both movies. The
Okay.
one that accepting your past
Would that
and
apply? Would that apply with Inception, with the same ending that we discussed about before, right? Where like Cobb basically just didn't care about being still in a dream, where he just kind of like, okay, I really don't care. I'm still gonna see like
or
the
maybe he
kids.
was actually sure that it was not a dream. You know, it's you can have a lot. There's a lot of room for interpretation there. You
True,
know,
but if we go,
and
but if we go with the
I mean,
basic one,
even if
right?
it was a dream, you know, that's not the point. That's actually not the point. You know,
How
let's say
so?
it was a dream. That's not the point. Or maybe it is the point. No, it's actually it's actually not the point.
No, I would have said it's the point. Like, if I'm saying like, I think both of them in some ways, like based on their endings, would have two different messages. Where like Paprika was like, okay, just face your. It's not face your dreams. It's more of like acknowledge that dreams are just dreams, right? They're not reality, and you should be yourself in reality, and you shouldn't
You shouldn't
reserve.
live your life in a dream. That's
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. Like that's exactly what Paprika said. Like you shouldn't live your reality in a dream. Just live them in reality, basically, right? The same way,
yeah.
like Paprika, like express your emotions, do or whatever, just exist. That's it. And on the other side, you have Inception, where Cobb is basically saying, okay, like I'm suffering a lot, and at this point, I genuinely don't care if I'm in a dream. I'm just gonna enjoy it. Isn't that a little bit conflicting?
Um,
I mean,
you
yeah, of
know,
course you're right. Like you
when
can
I said that
interpret it.
that's not the point, you know, like I believe that when he didn't look at if it was a whether it was a dream or not, I
Mm,
believe that that's when he really knew that what mattered was what he had in that moment, you know, his kids.
yeah.
And I believe, you know, the point is when you have a doubt about whether it's reality or not, you know, that already makes you
Hmm.
that already means that you have issues with that. He just accept, you know, he didn't have any issues with that anymore. That's why he didn't care whether it was a dream or not, you know. Like he accepted that, you know. He it didn't matter for him. Maybe he was so sure about it, you know.
So what you're saying basically is that like
I believe he didn't. It didn't matter to him
so what yeah exactly
in a sense
so for him at least
that
what you're saying
he left that stuff behind. I
exactly.
believe that's the message.
So from what I'm understanding, what you mean is like basically it wasn't a statement of like okay fuck reality or whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna
No, it
live in the
wasn't.
dream. It
No,
was more of like okay, just accepting it or whatever. But what
you
are
know,
you?
I believe he was pretty sure that it wasn't not a dream, and that you know, it's actually about him confronting reality.
But it
He's
wasn't
confronting
reality though, right? I would say in some ways like he's been
I don't
facing
know.
reality since the beginning. Like he like okay maybe that's like a
Beginning.
difference you
That's the
can
point. He's always living in his.
maybe that's something like of a difference like how the movies both start like at the beginning of Paprika it was more of like people living in their dreams, and in Inception you had people like facing reality all the time, like knowing the difference and like being very cautious, right? And
Yep.
maybe if in some ways maybe it flipped around a little bit where it was like okay in Paprika people were living in their dreams and at the end they just faced reality, and in Inception people were facing reality and maybe kind of started to live in their dreams literally because Cobb stayed in his dream, right? Like
No, no. I believe it's the opposite. I
it's
believe
the
it's the
opposite.
opposite.
Okay, what
As
how
well
so?
as same goes for Paprika and same goes for Inception. In the beginning, he's afraid to confront his kids, which means that he's living in his, let's say, dream world with his girlfriend. I mean, with his wife. Um, and he always stays there. He spends a lot of time in there, and
Mm.
that's also the issue.
Yeah, he trapped
You
her,
know that
right?
this, yeah, he trapped her.
Yeah,
And first of all, he probably always wanted to see her.
yeah,
He had like, you remember the part where he's like in the elevator,
exactly.
and on every floor there's her in doing something else,
Like a memory,
and
like
those
he
are
left
actually
out.
his memories.
Exactly.
Those are actually his memories.
Yeah.
And I believe he still lives in his memories, in his past.
Oh, he does.
That was the message. He
I
lives in his past,
that part with his kid is like something I remember, like not the end scene, but
and I believe,
where he's talking about like I wanted to like call them out to see their faces one last time, but I didn't, and I regret that. That was a really touching moment.
yeah, and I believe I believe he confronts reality. That's all I believe, and I believe
But
that's the
how?
message.
I don't see how he confronts. Like
In
I
the
think,
end, he confronts. I believe in the end, the ending is about him confronting and going to his children.
but I
You
disagree
know,
with that heavily. I would have said like he was confronting reality all the time because his main goal, his ultimate goal all the time was like, I need to see my kids, right? Like I need to see my kids. Like I'm not I'm not gonna ignore them. He's been calling them, he's been trying, like he's been working and whatever. And he just needed this one thing to like give him the ability, and that's why he took the job, right? Like the mission to like convince this, what was it, like energy company, whatever, like to plant this inception in his head, like this big job for him to get guaranteed that he wouldn't get arrested when he arrives in the US. And all the time I actually like kind of took it as in like he's been confronting reality, like he's been working to see his kids while maintaining their memories in his head, like not to forget them or whatever, right? Like this, you know what I mean? Like he's been having this one goal. That's how I like analyze that. He's but like on the other side
I'm
you're
not sure
kind of
about
right.
that. I'm not sure about that, and I say it's debatable. It's
It,
probably debatable
it
because
is debatable. It is for sure
yeah,
debatable, but I don't know. It's been very interesting, and he is obviously like obviously the main character in the whole story, and I obviously still don't like the ending that they gave us. It was basically like, okay, we just don't know what happened in reality. It's basically he just accepted or
well,
whatever. He just I don't know. Like what happened?
I gotta say I like those endings, like I said before, and they give you like the feeling you gotta think yourself. It gives you like
Yeah, but
think
it's
about the
like
message yourself,
true, but no, that's the point. I don't think
and
that this.
maybe make your own version of the ending.
But
Like
that's the problem. That's the problem. Like they're not letting you off with like the message and everything because Paprika lets you off with the message for you to deal
nah,
with the
well,
message.
it doesn't literally let you
I
off with
would
the
say
message. That's not true.
I would
I
say
mean, to discover the message in Paprika, I believe was even, let's say, um, even harder in some cases. But
I would agree.
I'm like one of those people. I don't like being served, you know, getting the message served on a silver plate. Like I don't like that.
Why?
It's way too easy. It's way too
No, but
easy.
I'm not saying like they should have basically like
And I believe it's cringe as well. Imagine you watching something about, let's say, you watch a movie about anti-racist, about anti-racism and stuff, and they're like, well, this is an anti-racist movie,
yeah.
and it's really bad to be racist and stuff, and so on, and they say it literally in the movie. Come on, that would be kind of cringe, and I believe
Okay,
that would,
I understand.
it's not, it doesn't have a transcendent meaning. It's
No,
just
no,
like
I
surface.
I 100% understand
Why
what
do
you
you
mean,
make a
right?
movie if why do you make a movie out of a concept if you explain the concept on paper again? It doesn't make sense.
But you have to.
Like why would
But you have
what
to
did
look.
you do the movie for?
But that's the point, though, right? Like, how I see it is basically like, okay, I think they should have done it in some ways, like how Paprika should have done, not like ripping off the whole story or whatever. What I mean is like, I think Paprika brought the whole concept, gave it a little bit of story, concluded this story along with its concept, and just left you off with the message to deal with it. You know what I mean? you can analyze it, you can find the message in it,
Yeah, well,
and
it
then
didn't
you
have
can
a
think
clear
about
message,
it. Did have a clear message.
and
You could argue it has.
no, it
But
didn't
look, but look. I
even
think when
serve the message
Inception,
on a silver plate. I'm sorry, it
but
didn't.
I think I no, that's
I
the point.
disagree.
But that's the point. It's not like what I want is basically like I don't think Paprika served you out the message with like on a silver plate. It made you analyze it, right? But my problem with Inception and most movies that just end like that is like they kind of loosely give you a concept and they won't they start a story but they won't finish the story, right? Like if you want the concept to be like okay non-ending and you just fill it in, I would understand, but I want the story to be concluded. If I don't get the story concluded, why am I reading a book or watching a movie? You know what I mean? Like a whole story is
I
basically,
disagree with you.
but look, a story is basically the decoration of your living room, right? Or your bedroom, whatever. And if you say like a bedroom is basically the whole concept, and everything else like the I don't know the sofa or the table you put in, whatever, is supposed to be the story. You just can't like you just can't build the I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor. But they should have at least concluded the story or shown like okay what's happening in reality, and we could have still taken out the concept or the message that they brought in and analyzed it and learned from it. Would have still done the same thing. I think it's very half-assed when people just do like, oh, we don't know what happened to him, oh, we just don't know, we just it's up to you to conclude the
You know,
story. But what
I
did you
still
start it
have.
then?
I told you I have an idea about what happened,
I
and I
know, but
believe
it's
that's
like
the
that's
right
the
idea.
point.
Like maybe everybody thinks obviously everybody thinks he's right about the story, but
But
and
that's the
about the
problem.
ending.
But that's the problem. I don't like when people
But I
get.
believe that's like, the room for interpretation is needed in this case.
It is.
I
I
believe that's
agree,
what
but
makes
not to this
people debate
degree.
about it. That's what makes people memorize it. Especially, people underestimate how memorable those kind of moments are, especially in movies. I mean, like if you think about
Yeah, it's true.
Inception,
You're right.
you will remember that moment because it was the
Mm.
moment that kind of shocked you, that put that made you think about things.
Or made you pissed
It's
off.
just
In my
like,
case,
well, in your case.
most cases probably, maybe. Who knows?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Probably not. But I don't
I
know.
wouldn't say that.
Look, it's like Negus. It's like if you have a race, right? If you have 100-meter race, right? You put Usain Bolt, you put whatever other athletes in it. You make them run up to 75 meters. You just make them stop at that and just say like, okay, based on how they ran up so far, you can just calculate who would have finished and at what time they finished, right? That's basically what they're doing with these movies. It's like they're starting the run and giving you what the deadline actually is, but just stopping midway and saying, okay, you just fill in the last part, which is kind of annoying. That's why people remember it. I think it's just like it just annoys you. It just makes you pissed off. But it is a good ending. I like it, but I despise it at the same time too. I don't know. That's how I see it. I don't like when people just kind of say like, okay, it's up for everybody to interpret because everybody is literally gonna interpret it, and there is no clear distinction. It's like having a currency where nobody knows the value of it. You know what I mean? It's just pure chaos. But that makes money.
Ah,
Am I right or am I right? Tell me. Come on.
I mean, you have a valid point. You have a valid point there, but I still wouldn't say that they do it on purpose for that reason, like not concluding the story just because to let people in chaos and make,
I think
like
it's
money out of it. Like, you know, well, I believe one thing it does make is it makes people search for the meaning. Like if you're really like into that stuff, you're surely like 100% you're gonna search for the ending, like the meaning of the ending, and what actually happened, analysis,
You're just
and
gonna
that kind
find
of stuff.
you're just gonna find some overweight YouTuber just giving you his opinion. I don't know. I don't know. But okay,
Exactly.
but something that okay, but back to like the whole movies, right? Like something that could be interesting or it could be analyzed is like that there isn't actually a bad guy in Inception, right? What would you say? There isn't like this. Okay, this
No, I
guy.
wouldn't say there's a bad guy
Yeah.
because I believe it's not about having like. I believe the dream itself is his enemy.
Or
Like I
he
said,
himself.
like
He
the
himself,
world of
basically.
dreams is his enemy, and he has to overcome this. That's
Mm.
the point, and that's why I said like the ending. He overcomes it, by not even confronting, by not even caring, by not even considering the fact that it could be a dream. You know,
Yeah.
he was like so sure about it. He confronted it, and he overcame it. And
Was
I
I
believe
mean that
that's the concept, and I believe that's the message. And
I don't
I mean, I understand your point of it being like, you know,
exhausting.
uh, chaotic ending,
Yeah. But
and
I don't know. That's how
it maybe not having a, as a clear of a message
the
as
story rather
Paprika.
story. Look, I think the message is. Mm, I mean, the conclusion is always like something that just kind of concludes the message as well, right? But I don't know. I think I was very much invested in this story as well. Like, I don't know. I think Cobb just kind of like presented a reputation of like someone who's like very aware and very strict and like checking reality and everything, which kind of made the conclusion like even more powerful, right? Like he's very paranoid about like if he's in reality, he's always spinning the thing if you can remember. But and when at the end he's just very lukewarm about it and just doesn't care anymore. It does have a lot of weight to it. I'm not taking that away from it. But and
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
believe he confronts his fears. He's always in a constant fear of
Yeah,
this not being real. You
yeah,
know, and I
yeah.
believe he overcomes this in the end, and that's why they displayed it that way in the end. That's why it
Could
ended
be,
that way.
could
You know,
be. I don't know. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Um,
it
what
is.
do
You don't get a lot of movies that make you think about, let's say,
concepts like
struggles,
that? Not
those
even.
concepts.
Yeah, but like, okay. So we talked about what we could take away from Paprika, right? It's living in the moment. What does Inception really tell us then?
Well, it's not living in the moment. Um, it's being your true self,
Being true self.
confronting your struggles, your fears, your so-called reality and
Yeah.
your dreams, and yeah, doing that,
And
accepting,
what does Inception then? Like, okay,
moving on.
wait. Did you talk about Paprika right now or Inception?
Yeah, Paprika.
Yeah, exactly. So
I believe they have similar. First of all, the stories are similar, and I believe they
in some
have
ways,
a similar goal.
in some ways, what does what does the caravan of like what was it? Was it instruments, toys, or whatever represent in Paprika? What do you think of that? You remember like there was like this one
Yeah,
scary
I
puppet,
didn't
like one
I didn't
scary
really
puppet.
think about what it represents.
Or what was it generally? If we take about like if we take like metaphor analysis or whatever, like what was it truly, right? Because there was like this toy,
Maybe
like
maybe it just displays how big the problem got.
okay, that's
Like
true.
because it always became bigger. At the
Yeah,
beginning
yeah,
it was kind of
exactly.
small,
It was like a
and
few
it started
toys
to
and
grow,
yeah,
and it started to grow massively. Like in the end, like everybody on the street was joining, and I believe like that's it kind of represents um, how the story reaches its peak.
wait, hold up, you're right. Was it wait? As far as I remember, right? I'm asking myself like, how did the whole threat just begin, right? And what was the threat really? They kind of presented the main not antagonist, like just main villain to be like this board member, right? But I believe like it was more of like dreams kind of corrupting you. Does that make sense? Like I feel
It
like
does as well. It
exactly.
does as well.
No, like if you ask yourself like how did the whole thing just generally start, right? Like they were talking about like and that's kind of like what made Paprika like really unique as well. Like they kind of dove in also like the technology and whatever. what it could do. The first person to go mad through it was like this friend of the genius scientist, right? Like,
Yeah.
didn't he like abuse it? Not like he knew about it or whatever, but the dreams inside of him kind of like took control of him. That's why he became to be like he what happened to him? Like, I think he just generally became a villain through that, and
I believe he just got in love with the dream world. He
yeah,
fell in love with
exactly.
his dream world,
But
and he
it
did
trapped him.
want, and it kind of, he escaped from reality. He wanted to, the part where the scientist like kind of um you know commits suicide when he
Yeah,
jumps, like
he
almost
falls
commits
off. Yeah,
suicide. Yeah, I believe that was like the concept of it was him committing suicide, because he hated reality, and he wanted to continue living in the dream world.
yeah.
And yeah, that's what it displayed, the madness
True.
of people going mad in that
Of,
kind of way.
exactly, of people going mad. However, I believe also like in some ways that dream itself like became a reality through that. You know what I mean? I think dream was the enemy in the whole movie. What I mean through that is like if you can remember, I think this whole there was like this female toy, right? Like which was kind of scary throughout the whole movie, like from the beginning and everything. I don't know if you remember. Like
Yes.
she had like short hair and everything. She was standing like okay, I'm not I'm not gonna do that hand sign. uh, but yeah, you know which show I was talking about. Um, yeah, wasn't she like she was the dream of this one scientist that killed himself at the end, right? And through even like this guy was like a patient and everything. Like after he almost died, he was like in the bed and everything. This dream still kind of like separated itself from the guy who was basically supposed to be in control of it and just lived on by itself. And in some ways, like I think that was like dream kind of like the whole issue of the whole story was like dream kind of like went outside of this guy or out of the tech or whatever after corrupting people and jumped from one person to the other, and it just corrupted the
I believe it was more like dreams becoming reality for most of the people, like they
yeah, but
living their dreams
like
in
out of
reality.
control, but like out of control.
Yeah,
I think
because it's a dream, because it's a
exactly
dream, and
at
that
the end
and
of the
that's
day,
what got them out of control. He
exactly
didn't even realize he was living in a dream and killing himself
exactly
due to that.
at the end of the day, I don't think the main guy who was paralyzed and everything, I don't think he was the bad guy either. I think to a lot of
No,
extent like
definitely not.
dream
I
corrupted
still
him as well.
believe that, the bad guy. I believe it was I told you, the chairman.
Yeah, the chairman, yeah.
I believe that was more like the personification of the bad guy,
But I
the
don't think
personification of it.
but I think even he got corrupted by his dream itself, right?
Definitely,
I think you
definitely.
can. I think that's the way I analyze it. You can disagree with it. Maybe you do,
I mean,
but
he used the technology for acquiring power, and yeah,
he was the way I see
and
it,
that's
right?
what corrupted him.
Exactly. But the way I see it, I think. What about the guy who was on his side? Like, okay, there was like this whole story
Yeah, he
arc
has
with like
he has like his own side story. He has like his own side story,
not only
where
like his side, but like
he's
no,
kind
I
of,
mean like the guy.
he didn't, he was not able like to confront his so-called let's say idol. I mean, he was like his I mean, the chairman was like his idol, and he
Mhm.
did everything the chairman told him. You remember, he was like his, I wouldn't say
He
his
was his
slave,
like
but
the driver, right? Like he was
he was like doing everything for him.
yeah, he was his
And
supporter, or yeah, he did everything like almost a slave actually, you're right. But
you know
what was the whole
and I
story of
believe
like
his struggle was understanding that he was being manipulated.
no, I think he
you
was
know
in love. I think he was in love, remember? He was in love with the real
with the
Paprika.
chairman,
No, no,
with
no.
the real.
Remember? No,
Sure.
no. Remember this one thing? No, no, no. Do you remember like where they caught
Well,
Paprika? They caught
yeah,
Paprika,
yeah, I remember
and
that one.
he held her down, and he pulled like the real person out of her, right? And the chairman basically
I believe
on that
he was in love with the real person, with her
exactly.
serious personality.
Exactly. He was in love with her.
and
And he couldn't exactly. You're right. Remember
and
the first
I
scene?
probably he couldn't accept her changing. I believe that's one.
Not
That's
only
like one
that,
of the
she
parts.
didn't want him. Remember, like no, like in the
Yeah,
beginning, right?
obviously she refused him. She refused
Exactly.
him. That's like
Remember in the car scene where like they knew who like the first scientist was like corrupted or whatever while driving to him. He was talking about like whatever he did, like she wouldn't give him attention or whatever. Like I wouldn't impress her because she was that good. And they were kind of building up like the fact that he just wanted her attention or whatever, right? And throughout the whole movie, you see that that persona that she had for herself wasn't even her real self. Like and but he didn't want the Paprika version of her. He wanted like the one that was real at that point, and that in some ways like that desperation I think is what pushed him off the limits or whatever. Damn,
yeah, I
I
believe
didn't even
the
think
real
about that guy.
Paprika was like displaying perfection.
Yeah,
And she was um how can I say this? Not letting her real self, her, let's say, her lust, her issues, her personality traits that most people have, her, yeah, I would say her issues, her problems.
yeah. No,
That's the Paprika of the dreams, of
that's
the
the
dream
Paprika
world.
of the dreams. Yeah, but
And
so
she kind of separated herself
yeah,
from her issues and displaying like at work that she was a perfect being, that she was perfect. She doesn't have any flaws. I was talking about flaws.
yeah.
Um, and she was trying not to show her flaws
She was definitely
and
trying not
trying to
to.
be perfect. And he fell in love with that perfect version of
Exactly,
herself.
exactly.
And
And
he couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept her, accepting herself, accepting her
yeah,
flaws.
yeah. And that was yeah. Remember like where
And her feelings and her emotions.
and her thoughts, yeah. And
Yeah.
like the chairman was like at a certain point trying to kill Paprika, right? Like when they caught her, and basically like the servant, right? Like I'm gonna call him servant or driver. Like he was protecting her, right? Like the chairman was like he had like this one like a
Yeah, I
really
believe
true
that was
chance.
when he realized he had to he realized that his concept of the chairman being like his, let's say, so-called father. He's like a father figure to him, and
Yeah,
he has to overcome.
yeah,
He has to overcome this father figure, um, and I believe that was the point where he understood what was right and what was wrong, and that
could be
the chairman was doing wrongs, um, and that was the moment like he overcame, you know, his
everything else.
manipulation.
True. Also, like he died right after or whatever, right? Like, and that kind of led me to the whole question that I wanted to raise earlier, right? Like, what was the point of like the chairman using him? Like, I didn't. There was like this whole scenes of like where the chairman was talking about like, okay,
But
I
the
need a
saying
vessel.
that
I need a body to like go into reality or whatever. And that's why like
yeah,
I thought like the chairman
that's
wasn't like
because
really
what I
real.
said, that the chairman is just a personification of the enemy.
Yeah.
It's like he's like the concept of control and the concept of chaos emerging,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Like he's not a
he's
real
like just a
person.
concept. He just needs somebody who can, like, a
Bridge it.
real vessel,
Yeah.
to carry it out.
Like he needs a bridge into reality in a lot of ways.
He needs to bridge into reality
Exactly. That's why I like the
to carry
chairman
out
his like real
his mission,
agendas.
his so-called mission, his so-called ideals.
Yeah, that's why like I don't think the chairman was like I'm still conflicted about if that guy was like real or not.
The vessel of evil. You could call it the vessel of evil, and
Yeah.
he obviously doesn't accept him.
No, he
At one
was like
point, he's like,
he was like pure destruction and he just needed a body to go into reality.
exactly.
And at the end of the day
So
he
I
still
believe
managed to.
he's obviously the bad guy in the movie, and
Yeah,
that's
obviously.
undebatable.
I don't think that's
Yeah,
debatable. Although you could say like the bad guy always was yourself in a lot of ways, and you were always the one that kind of holds you back
exactly. Yeah,
from doing what you
as
actually
I
want.
said earlier, it's just a personification.
Yeah, but no, that's Damn, the movie really goes deep. It wasn't even that long, the whole movie. It was like 1.5 hours.
Nah, it was like 1.5 hours exactly.
Exactly. For like this short of a movie, bro. Like it contains too much, man. It really
Yeah,
contains too much.
nowadays I believe movies, most movies nowadays that are in like cinemas and even Netflix movies, like the newer productions, I think it's since I would say since 2008,
Yeah.
people started making these awfully long movies, like 2.5 hours.
I mean, they're
Before it
forced to
was like,
like put action into it.
before it was like, when like when I was back in middle school,
Yeah.
um, it was more like, well, what kind of long movies do you know? The Lord of the Rings,
Avatar.
Gladiator, Avatar, and Harry Potter was also long because like every movie was like 2 hours, and that was already long.
Yeah.
You
Now
know,
you got
and obviously,
Transformers like 4 hours movies.
and then and then that happened, and then kind of I don't know why the movie industry extended
I mean,
movies.
it's because of action, right? Like
Maybe because of the success. Maybe because of the success of like movies like The Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter,
stuff
that
like
were
that.
all like over 1.5 hours.
Yeah, but like those movies really had like they had way more similarities to like what Paprika was kind of doing, like concepts and ideas and
Yeah, definitely.
like a whole
It's
different
like
reality.
they actually had plots.
Plot,
They
yeah.
actually had the plot to fill in.
Yeah.
Like the story, they actually had it. You know, and usually not nowadays, like most of those movies are just like infinitely extended um, with
Just
let's say voids because it's nonsense. Like mostly it's just like scenes that don't even
it don't
belong
even
in the
make sense.
story.
Or that yeah,
They
exactly.
don't
That don't even add up.
they don't even add up.
Yeah,
Like
it's
a lot of movies have this issue. Like they just extend the runtime,
yeah.
but the story still is short. The story
Yeah,
has to
you
be
can
told short.
literally cut like half an hour out of the movie. It still would have been the same, right? Stuff like
Exactly,
that.
like senseless dialogues,
Or just
um,
senseless action scenes just for the sake. And I
action
think that's
scenes,
what
for
killed
example.
movies. I think that's what kind of killed movies. I think a lot of
Yeah, I
directors
mean, like,
started like
what kind of
focusing on
movies
action.
nowadays? What kind of movies do you actually look up to watching in the cinema,
Like right now,
for example? Yeah,
I would say like the last memorable thing, even though I didn't watch it in cinema, but like something I would have really wanted to watch in cinema would be The Joker because it
yeah.
seemed like it
Well,
had something to tell. You know what I mean? It just
The Joker. I believe it was a great movie.
it was like
Um,
it really
have you
had
watched it?
something to
Have you
say.
watched it?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Um,
Like
well,
what would you say like the I mean like we didn't have a chance to watch movies in the last year obviously in 2020 but even then like really terrible movies came out. Like I don't know if you've seen Wonder Woman. Have you seen it?
yeah, I've seen Wonder Woman, and
Like
I
as
thought
in no
it
as
was
in
like a
like
cliche movie. Like
the
it was
2020 version, like Wonder Woman 1984 I mean. Like the second one, not 2017. Like
like the
like
new one. You mean the new one?
yeah, and the one that came out in December of 2020.
Oh well, no, I haven't watched that one.
Yeah, don't
I take it back. I watched like the one
20,
before.
yeah.
The
That one
2015, right?
2017. That one wasn't
17.
bad. That one really wasn't bad. But trust me, I mean, like if you've seen the first one, like you might give the second one a chance. But if you're I don't know, if you like plot, if you like story, and if you just like the basic form of common sense and storytelling, then don't watch this. Trust me, it's it's pretty awful. It's
Well,
literally
let's just say I'm gonna take your word on that one,
it's no
and I'm
seriously.
not gonna watch it.
It's literally like everything you just talked about, like movies that just put in like pointless things into it just for the sake of putting into it, and at the end you just have like a soup of
Just for the
nothing.
sake of additional scenes.
Exactly, and that's kind of like what's killing movies. I mean, like Inception came out in 2010, right? It still holds up today, man. Like
Still
the
holds up
movie,
today.
it really still holds up today. It's 10 years old. You wouldn't guess that. It's a really good movie. And I mean, it's obviously the director and everything, they're pretty good, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I wish for better cinema for the future, bro. Like I mean, I'm pretty
Yeah,
excited.
let's just hope they get a few more new ideas, and
Or get more inspiration from
maybe
anime.
I believe they should. I get more get more inspiration out of anime. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's the cheat code.
I'd be 100% for that.
That's what. Okay,
Like I'd sign that contract right away.
100%. Okay, what? Okay, let's put it on a question. Like, what kind of movies do you want to be made or inspire? Like, what kind of anime movies do you want to inspire to other movies? Like, we have Paprika right now. I think a movie such as like Your Name
Your name,
would be amazing
Kimi
if
no
done
Nawa.
right. If done right, I think they would knock it out. Like I think that would be like the romantic movie of genuinely the decade.
I still wouldn't say it would be better than the original.
I wouldn't
'Cause
say either. I don't think Inception was better
but
than Paprika
if they
either.
make like just a similar story, like they did with Inception,
Yeah,
like not the same, obviously.
but
I don't
kind of
want
inspired.
a Netflix adaptation
Nah,
of
nobody's for that.
Kimi no Nawa.
Nobody's for
But
that.
yeah,
Um,
I mean the concept was pretty great in
what?
Kimi no Nawa, and
Yeah,
I believe
I mean they
it
could have.
definitely
What?
it's worth a shot.
A hundred
It's worth
percent.
a shot.
I mean, like you could do it like I mean, director of like Christopher Nolan, right? Like if Inception did it, just putting out like the core things and just having a kind of new twist to it, but obviously not copy pasting it. That would obviously be terrible. But
Yes.
I don't know. I don't
Uh
know what
huh.
I don't know what's gonna. I mean, like this year's gonna be interesting, and next week we probably have a more psychological anime once again as well. I'm pretty excited for that. It's what is what
Yeah,
was
me as well.
what was it again? The
Serial experiments lane.
See,
We
Elaine.
wanted to do it this week. We wanted
Yeah,
to do it
we
this week
actually wanted to do it this week, but
because it had similar concepts. I mean, it's also similar, kind of.
kind of.
Um, let's not spoil or anything,
I'm not. I mean, I didn't start watching it yet.
but
I think
probably we're gonna have a similar topic
similar talk.
discussion
A hundred
next
percent.
time as well.
100%. And are we gonna have like a series to compare it to, or are we purely gonna analyze that?
I'd say pure analysis. Maybe probably we could um, say something about Paprika again, like in
Oh yeah, bring the
relationship
whole
to.
topic in, and also like
Yeah, I mean, it's like the same topic, like almost the same topic.
I mean it's very similar.
I
Like I
guess.
don't I don't know who made
I
Lane.
mean,
I'm call it
I
Lane.
think it's from 19. Isn't it from 1996?
No, it's old. Like I mean like I downloaded it and I've seen like I've seen a few scenes in it or whatever to just check it. Like the anime seems old. It's not to the point where it's like bad or anything, but you do
No, no, definitely not.
no you can see that it's a bit older, but
The point is, I think it was from 1996. That's when it aired. Or was it
96.
1994? 96.
Damn.
It's pretty old. It's older than me.
No, we shall
Older
see.
than you as well.
100%. We shall see. But however, until then,
Yeah, for sure.
should we just conclude this?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
I got a banana to eat.
What time is it? Oh, okay.
It-
It's no, it's not bedtime.
what time is it? What time is it?
Probably. I'm saying probably. It's almost 7.
All right, it's almost 7. Then it's done. Well, this concludes our actual like official first official take or posting of a successful podcast. Actually, it's pretty good. That's a round of applause right there. It's a round of applause.
Applause. And
yeah.
maybe next time we can even let's say welcome a few other members.
We can
guests.
gamble. We can gamble on that.
We can gamble. We can gamble on that.
It's always it's always a gamble on that aspect. But rest assured that there's gonna be an episode next week. At the very best, my fellow Negus here, as well as I, uh, with next week's episodes and see you next week. It's like, but yeah, okay, Nate, I missed it. Yeah, cut. That's it. Round of